I'm Richard.
I'm Heidi.
And we're the Card Game Guys, the internet's premier source for DC deck building game content. What we have for you is the third part of our multiverse game, and as you might notice looking at the screen, we are in the middle of some serious action right now. Deimos was defeated right at the very end of the last video, so now we're facing Deimos and his first attack, which none of us can avoid. But that's just cranking out more attacks for us, so let's see what happens.
Yeah, and now you guys are on a clock to finish this game, aren't you?
There's a certain degree of truth to that, yes. If the main deck runs out, we do lose the game to Deimos, so it's important to make sure we go ahead and get that taken care of properly.
So yeah, everyone at this point has to be thinking about their end game point, how they're going to win. Do they want to defeat Deimos, or do they try to defeat the other champions still that people still have?
Yeah, and you can see 3 of the players still have 2 champions remaining, so there's plenty of champion defeating remaining. But that's still probably easier than hitting 23 power in a single turn. That is a lot of power. And here we see Doug picking on me just because I'm the only one with many VPs with his Constantine attack.
And with his Constantine attack, what does it do to your VPs?
It takes away 3 of them, so it's pretty brutal when it's just a single target attack like it is with using his multiverse location.
Right, versus when you're attacking multiple people with other variations on the game.
Yes. Oh, and here we see another event going away thanks to Doug wiping it clear. And now we have Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Ooh, I just read this.
Yes, the rulebook for the multiverse box has a little note in the back in sort of the frequently asked questions section, and it says, "This card is not for the faint of heart," and it is not joking. Crisis on Infinite Earths puts out an additional event, which in this case is 0 Hour, and it puts out a crisis, which in this case is Electromagnetic Pulse. And Crisis on Infinite Earths stays out there until the crisis is defeated, and what's more, if it's still on the table when the game ends, everybody loses.
Yeah. And I noticed that it says that if they can contribute, they have to. So no one can chicken out just to make it hard for everyone else.
Yeah, you can't be a bad sport and just say, well, if I can't win, nobody can win. So in this case, if you have an equipment in your hand, you have to destroy it if everybody else does as well.
So this makes it almost seem a little bit like a cooperative game. I mean, it's not, but...
Right, and that's kind of the tension that's interesting with this card, is that we have to work together to beat it, but we're still fighting against each other constantly.
Okay, Icicle.
Yes, so Doug played Parallax, which is one of the cards from the Multiverse set, which allows you to remove it from the game when you play it, to draw 2 extra cards at the end of the turn, and take the next turn. And then he went ahead and defeated Icicle, which was Steven's champion, and now he gets another turn right away again with 2 extra cards, which is kind of crazy good.
Okay, so you guys just had to deal with the attack from Icicle and everyone else.
Yes,
Steven.
everyone except Steven got hit with the attack, but the attack was meaningless anyway because it gives weaknesses and there are no weaknesses left.
Okay.
It would have given out a lot of weaknesses, but there weren't any left, so it didn't matter. And now we see Doug once again. Oh, I played 2 villains. Richard loses all of his VPs.
Oh, and you're thinking, why did I even bother?
Yeah, I mean, I beat Deimos because it was 14 VPs, and now I've just got 5 of that left. It's kind of disappointing.
Because he can just take it with one of his cards. That's just kind of wrong.
Well, it's perfectly reasonable in a game where there are lots of cards that give VPs. Here in the multiverse game, where it's basically Deimos is the one main source, and then any cards that we happen to randomly obtain through other parts of the game.
Right. So I'm saying that Constantine is kind of an overpowered card.
It is very strong. And here we see Doug with his second turn going ahead and taking out Green Lantern, Steven's last champion. So that's pretty brutal. At the end of my turn, Steven had 2 champions left. When it gets to his turn, he's got 0.
Yeah, I bet he wasn't happy with that turn.
Yeah, that's not really the way you want things to go.
And so now he has no location either, right?
Still got Moscow out there.
Okay. I guess what I meant by location is he lost his one.
Oh, yes, his multiverse location. You are correct. I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying. Yep, but he's got kind of his setup going, so he has a lot of complementary things going on. Like he gets to use electricity to draw a card, plus another card for Moscow. So there's lots, and if he can pull into a villain, and he did, he gets to draw a card then from Indigo 1, which I think he forgot that would trigger off of Brainiac, but he remembers it on Computo. But Computo, of course, makes things a little bit more complicated for him because now everything in one of the lineups, which I believe he chose the event lineup.
Okay. Oh, he cheated? I see that card up there on the screen.
Yes, because he bought Batwoman as though she cost 3. But with Computo, she had cost 5.
Okay. And no one caught that at that point.
Right. So now we see another player putting a supervillain in play with an ongoing effect. Terra is a little bit less dramatic than Brainiac, although it can be interesting. It lets you destroy a card once per turn that you have played, which can be very productive. Especially, using a weakness like he just did. Or even, punches, you still get the power but can destroy them, which is an advantage over destroying a card in your hand. But he's realizing he's got too many weaknesses and he's got too many starters left, so he's going for that heat vision.
Sure.
Ooh, now I get to play Telos, which has an interesting effect that I get a random superhero from outside the game. So now I am not just Mirror Master, but also the promo Starfire. Which, this is good timing, because there are no superpowers in either lineup right now, so I get to draw a card.
Okay.
I mean, I only need to have one of the lineups work for that, but I can pick whichever one I want.
Sure.
Ooh, and there's Bizarro World, which is... I would be super excited about, but apparently I have no weaknesses in my hand. But I have generally a pretty decent hand. And I can pick up Ra's al Ghul. Now, the idea that I've got for this is I know that there is a green arrow in the destroyed pile. And I know that Doug has 2 champions remaining. And I want to confront both of them. So I'm hoping to have Ra's al Ghul on one of the turns when I'm going to do that so I can get the extra 5 VP out of that.
Well, I see too, right now with this event, villains have +1 power.
Yes, villains are very strong right now. So now we see Doug getting this little bit of a combination where he plays Flashpoint Aquaman, which gives him the +1 power from the event, and it gives him another villain from a random set.
Okay.
Or a random set villain from a set of his choice, which is automatically going to give him at least another +1, plus it's going to let him trigger his attack, which in this case, I don't know who he tried to take VPs from. Did he forget about it?
Maybe he did.
Oh, no, he was just thinking, and now he's taking away Matthew's last VP. Oh, but Matthew's got a defense. And we get to see more Warlord craziness. Mm-hmm. Be thankful for editing, everyone. Made that a lot faster than it could have been.
Yep.
Ooh, Mr. Zaz, which does next to nothing except tell us all what's on top of our decks. Because we're all out of weaknesses. It's an interesting point of the game. And I can kind of understand why Impossible Mode has it where you never really run out of weaknesses. Because if you destroy them, they're going to go back onto the pile. Because it's kind of sad at a certain point where you're like, I've got all these great attacks, but you don't get a weakness for it.
Yeah, but if you're getting hit by those attacks, it's kind of nice.
Okay, now 3 turns in a row, Doug has defeated a champion. So now defeating Jay Garrick. Which is another way for some of us to gain some VPs.
Okay.
I pass a nth metal. And... got a VP, though.
Right.
Oh, yes, and now we're taking advantage of 0 Hour's secondary ability, which is when you defeat a supervillain, you may put a card from your discard pile into your lineup. But I hear you saying, but wait, isn't Jay Garrick a superhero? The multiverse rules specifically point out that any card that references supervillains or superheroes affects the opposite player in that dynamic exactly the same way.
I'm confused. So if he's a superhero but it's an attack, then it's like it's a supervillain?
I'm not sure what you're even asking. Okay. He defeated Jay Garrick, which was Matthew's champion, and that triggered the secondary ability. Each time you defeat a supervillain, you may put a card from your discard pile into this lineup.
Okay.
Even though Jay Garrick is a superhero because of the rules of multiverse. So, for example, when I played Telos, it says grab a random superhero from outside the game. It would also work with the supervillain cards from Forever Evil or Rogues, much in the same way that Jay Garrick coming from Rogues as a superhero/supervillain equivalent card.
Okay.
It still triggers.
I think I understand this rule. It still sounds like it could get awfully confusing in the middle of the game and lead to much discussion.
It basically comes down to you don't get too semantically picky about whether it says superhero or supervillain. Okay. And now we're seeing another champion get defeated as Steven beats Matthew's Brainiac, and so we get to face the attack. It's interesting for Steven here because it's technically in the middle of his turn. He doesn't have a hand, so he didn't have 2 cards to put down. So there's 4 cards that come out, and he gets one for free.
Okay.
And he, too, gets to put a weakness from his discard pile into the lineup.
You've got quite the lineup of cards going on there on the table.
Yes, because Deimos, at the end of each player's turn, adds a card from the main deck to each lineup.
I know.
Yes. Now, one of the things that's interesting, I don't know of a rule that would preclude putting weaknesses into the lineup like we've done here. I don't know what would really be the point of it. Or having a rule to prevent it, except for situations like this where you can get the lineup clogged with them potentially.
Now, so the crisis, you guys have not making any headway? I mean, has no one had equipment? Or
we've had 2 to 3 people having equipment all the time, but you need to have all 4 in order to defeat the crisis. So a lot of us have to buy more equipment.
Okay, so it's a matter of that you all have to have it in your hand at the same time. It's not a matter of individually doing it whenever you can.
Right. Yeah, it's not like Crisis 3 or the Watchmen set where it talks about contributing, where you can put them in whenever they're handy.
Right.
But yes, with the Crisis cards from Crisis 1 and 2, it has to be done simultaneously. You have to all be able to do it, which is part of the challenge. Which, if you watch our Crisis game, you can see us scrambling for weaknesses, which is mildly hilarious, as we're all trying to get as many weaknesses as we can. And now we see me taking advantage of Bizarro World and hitting Iris West, which would be fairly strong in the Rogue set, much less so now, although I do have the ability to do a teamwork with my super villain Mirror Master.
Okay.
So we'll have to see if I can take advantage of that and actually play a card off of the top of somebody's deck.
So I get the feeling that at this point, people are just trying to take out each other's champions to end the game that way.
Well, we don't want to end the game yet, is the problem. Because we've got Crisis on Infinite Earths, which means if the game ends, we all lose.
Yeah, but the problem is that you guys have been taking out each other's champions instead of trying to get rid of the...
Yeah. Well, see, that's just it, is we can't get rid of the Crisis until we all have equipment.
I know. I'm just trying to figure out why people aren't then using it to buy more stuff out there rather than taking out each other's champions.
Well, as long as there's still 2 people with champions, the game's not going to end. Now here we'll see another cheat card because I played T-Spheres, and I should only be getting +1 power and not getting the secondary effect. Fortunately, I didn't end up drawing a card, so it doesn't make a difference. But that is technically cheating because of the crisis text on electromagnetic
and you just
pulse. Yes. Yeah. You may see a fair amount of that because that one, for whatever reason, is difficult for us to keep track of when we're having villains having +1 power and equipment losing all abilities and only having +1 power.
You want to read the cards and use them the way you're used to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now, defeating Constantine, because of Telos' original first appearance attack, he had 3 VPs on him. So in a fit of irony, I get 3 VPs for beating Constantine, who's taken away a lot of my VPs.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just wow, that just seems really super.
Sure.
Overpowered.
Yeah, and the order here is interesting too because the multiverse rules are very specific that you face the attack before you actually gain the supervillain card, or in this case, superhero card. So I took the attack to lose 3 VPs that I didn't have and gain a weakness that isn't left in the stack for not having any VPs. And then I get the Constantine card, so it's at that point that I get the 3 VPs.
Okay.
So we were concerned about the order because it would be kind of sad if I were to get Constantine to get the 3 VPs that the Constantine attack would then take away from me.
Yeah.
That would be horribly unfun, but the rules apparently took that into consideration, which was nice.
Okay.
Now I should point out there is a little bit of a rules question with regards to Deimos, because I think we played it wrong here.
I see a cheat card going out again.
Yes, because Steven played the Batmobile and discarded his hand and drew 5 cards, which he shouldn't be able to do because it should just be +1 power because, again, of electromagnetic pulse. There are 4 cards in play right now that are affecting everything that we do. There's a stack ongoing on Deimos. There's the event for 0 Hour. There's the event for Crisis on Infinite Earths. And there is the crisis itself of electromagnetic pulse, which makes things very complicated to keep track of. And it should be noted that Steven's cheating gave him 3 Suicide Squads, thus destroying the rest of our hands.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This is a huge swing.
Yes, this is a huge swing. But I don't think ultimately that it matters.
Well,
I mean, it basically gives him 1 extra turn.
Okay.
He would be in an equally strong position without doing this. So I don't think it really messed up that much. And we get to see some interesting turns coming up where people have nothing to do, but still manage to do at least a little bit of something. So watch closely. This is an interesting time period.
Sure. I'm just saying that more so, and I'm not blaming Steven in the least.
Yes, this is a way more egregious cheat than the one that I just did that literally affected nothing because I ended up with power.
Right. No, I'm just saying that this actually could have affected a game.
Yes. Yes, this was a big deal that this was missed. I mean, it would have ended up just happening on the next time around the table, but I know I had a really good hand coming into that turn, so the tempo swing was way bigger with it happening now than it would have been later.
Right. Again, not blaming Steven. I'm just saying that this is...
So now Matthew's doing a nice setup here using Vanishing Point because he destroyed a 3-cost card and he happened to randomly generate a set that did have a 3-cost equipment. So he could make sure that he's going to get an equipment in the next turn, which you can see next time. The card game, guys. Come play with us.